Okay, so today we will discuss about chronic subdural hematoma. It's a etiopathogenesis, clinical symptoms, diagnosis, treatment and prognosis of this particular entity. Now, chronic subdural hematoma is encapsulated collection of old liquefied blood in between the dura and arachnoid, and Virchow in 1857 named this entity as pachymeningitis hemorrhagica interna, and this is a classical CT scan which shows an image of subdural hematoma. Basically, subdural hematomas are of two types, acute or chronic. The acute subdural hematoma occurs in young adults with major trauma, and it occurs immediately after head injury, and there is structural brain damage associated with this. It is solid and has a bad prognosis, and which depends on the extent of brain injury. Whereas the chronic subdural hematoma occurs in elderly, and there is a history of trivial trauma in 50% cases, and rest of the cases even they forget the history of trauma, which may be very mild. Now it presents late, that is the delayed presentation occurs after about 4 to 6 weeks of mild head injury, and there is no associated structural brain injury. It is usually liquid and the prognosis is excellent. The incidence of subdural hematoma is about 18 per lakh, and it increases to 56 per lakh in population above 65 years. So this is why it is called disease of elderly. Now it constitutes about 2 to 3% cases of neurosurgical OPD, and it is in 1/4 or 1/5 of cases it is bilateral. Now the etiology and risk factors. First, the etiology, commonest etiology is fall or accident, or patient on anticoagulant or antiplatelet therapy, bleeding diastasis, hemodialysis, alcohol or epilepsy. Now the risk factors constitute advancing age, Alzheimer's and brain atrophy, dehydration and low intracranial pressure. These all entities add to the development or progression of chronic subdural hematoma. Low intracranial pressure, particularly following the lumbar puncture and spinal surgery. Post lumbar puncture headache if it persists more than a week. Postpartum headache following epidural anesthesia. Microdiscectomy complicated by CSF leak, VP shunt or ETV. Now how it is formed is, its pathogenesis consists of aging. Then in aging there is generalized cerebral atrophy, so that there is a increased space between brain and skull, and lack of tamponade effect of atrophied brain is there. Now whenever there is any movement in anterior-posterior direction of head, the movement of skull stops, but the movement of brain continues due to inertia, and that is what is called acceleration-deceleration injury, and which causes the stretching and rupture of bridging veins, producing a small acute subdural hematoma, and a thin film of fibrin and fibroblasts deposits in due time, and at 3 weeks there is a thin membrane formation. This clot liquefies, and either its liquefied clot is spontaneously absorbed, in that case no subdural hematoma will form, or it slowly increases because of increased protein content and oncotic pressure, and this is what is called the osmotic theory. When there is a liquefaction of hematoma, capillaries formation is there, vascular hyperpermeability is there, and increased fibrinolysis and recurrent microbleeding and presence of abnormal dilated vessels in capsule with increased fibrolytic activity within the capsule forms or leads to development as well as enlargement of subdural hematoma, and this theory is most accepted. Now, nature of fluid in subdural hematoma may be watery, altered blood or fresh blood clots, depending upon the age of subdural hematoma and recurrent bleeding. Now, increased venous fragility and increased immunoinflammatory markers are seen in chronic subdural hematoma like interleukin, anti-angiogenic growth factor, vascular endothelial growth factors, and fibroblastic growth factors. Clinically, symptoms may be grouped into psychiatric symptoms like behavioral disorders, mental deterioration, altered mental state, confusion, drowsiness, or coma. Another group may present as a tumor or tumor syndrome, where the onset of symptoms is insidious and gradually progressive, and there are features of raised intracranial pressure in the form of headaches and vomitings. It can present as a normal pressure hydrocephalus, where there are memory disturbances or dementia, incontinence, and gait disturbances constitutes the characteristic triad of NPH. It may present as focal deficits like hemiparesis, paraparesis, hemisensory deficit, speech difficulty, or quadriparesis. The extrapyramidal syndromes may be there in the form of Parkinson's syndrome, chorioathetoid movements, akinetic rigidity, or it may present as general symptoms in the form of vertigo, fatigue, recurrent falls, and persistent non-postural headaches. There may be isolated neurological symptoms or signs in the form of seizures, oculomotor palsy, blepharospasms, and nystagmus. A general physician, neurologist, or neurosurgeon has to be aware of existence of chronic SDH in elderly patient on anticoagulant, antiplatelet, or trivial trauma, and there must be a high index of suspicion in this particular group. And always suspect this in patients with history of recurrent fall or aspirin, when headache is non-postural and persisting, and when there are simple partial seizures at this age, or there are TIAs. Differential diagnosis includes tumor, subarachnoid hemorrhage, stroke, CVA, or normal pressure hydrocephalus. The diagnosis is by contrast enhanced CT scan, which is investigation of choice as it is easily available and a quick tool to diagnose. Repeated macrohemorrhages, heterogeneous or hypodense because of different age of hematoma. In acute phase, it is hyperdense within 3 days. In subacute phase, it is isodense from 4 to 21 days, and in chronic is hypodense after 21 days. Isodense hematoma is difficult to visualize, so it is suspected on the basis of indirect findings in the form of convex border appearing flattened or concave, effacement of sulci, compression of ipsilateral ventricle, bilateral squeezed lateral ventricles, and obliteration of basal cisterns.